Welcome everyone to the I Am Transformed show where we interview real people with real life transformations. If you own fears and insecurities are hindering you from pursuing your dreams, the wait is over. When you can change your mindset, you can change your life. Go after the life that you desire and deserve. I am your host, Dr. Veronica Outlaw, and I am here to proclaim that I am transformed. Today, I am so excited. We have a special guest. We have Christina Stanley, who's an educator and author and a grief support services owner. She holds a master's degree in education and is currently taking courses to obtain a license as a certified substance abuse counselor. Christina is here today to share her struggles and triumph with singleness, healing from brokenness, abstinence, godly accountability, and grief. She had one plan, but God had another for her life, and she accepted that call. Now, as an author and a grief support coach, Christina is providing support to children and adults to help them go from sorrow to joy in a healthy manner. If you've ever been in a dark place or you're even there now, tune in to hear how Christina went from being broken, a broken single, to kingdom purpose. Christina,
Hello, Veronica. How are you?
welcome.
Thank
I am amazing. How are you?
I am so well. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I first of all want to thank you for accepting the invite. I have seen you do some marvelous things since we first connected back in 2017.
Yes.
I'm going to start there so people get a picture of the Christina 3 years ago to where she is today. So Christina and I have known each other virtually since about 2017 through an organization called the One University. And I think it's safe to say that we both were in a desperate place in our lives, trying to recover from past traumas and hurt, and just searching for answers as we were dealing with singleness.
Yes.
And so I thank God for the connection. So we stayed connected all this time. And actually, we're both still in the One University, still learning and still growing. So um, I want to start doing your season of life back in 2017 to bring light to how God has moved in your life through today. So let's start with that singleness journey. Tell us about the space or the season you were in back in 2017.
Hmm. Okay, so in 2017, I had just gotten out of it wasn't really a relationship. It was a situationship with a gentleman whom I thought that we were going to get married, and he ghosted me. Which, if those of you who don't know the term, he basically stopped talking to me without any reason or rhyme, and I was heartbroken. I was depressed. I was heartbroken. I was just looking for answers in that time, and I was just in a really just dark space, and I really didn't talk about it to anyone because I didn't know how to or what to seek. I honestly was probably about December, when my birthday came around. I was just crying out to God, just like, God, I need something to help me because I'm clearly doing relationships horribly, and I need some guidance. I need some accountability, to remain abstinent, because I hadn't with him even after I said I was. And then lo and behold, January of 2017, I come across this Facebook ad about godly dating with the founders of the One University, whom I didn't know at the time. And I was like, well, let me see what this is. So I clicked it, and it was like 3 days worth of just how to, court in a godly way, and having accountability. And so they had a webinar after 3 days, and I joined. And it was actually with another couple who I also follow, and it was called God Sent versus Counterfeit. And that webisode blessed my life so much, and I was like, I have to join the One University. So I actually joined that night, and I've been I was in it. I did graduate, because it is like a college course. And through that course, I met accountability friends such as Dr. Veronica Outlaw, and I have gained just so much from them. I decided to stay, so I am still a part of the One University, and I'm just blessed to have them a part of my life.
It's funny you say that because I think I found them on a Facebook ad too. And I was crying out to God too because I was so tired of hurt after hurt after hurt and not having the answers and not really having the circle around me to help with that. Like you said, the godly accountability. And ran across that ad. And I think when I came around, they were doing the, I think if I remember correctly, it was the Pray for Your Future Spouse challenge. And about day 2 into that challenge, I said, I don't need to be praying for a spouse. I need to be praying for me to be fixed.
Yes.
And so after that, I became a lifetime member. So I am a lifetime member. And so I get it. I get it. So talk about your, talk about some of the things that you were doing in your single season that you know you just knew you weren't getting it right. What were some of those things?
Well, as I stated before, I was in that situationship, and I was acting as though I was in a relationship. I was acting like I was a wife. To be transparent, I was acting like I was a wife to this gentleman, doing wifey duties, including having sex with him. And then when he like I said, basically he just left, just out the blue. And that just broke me. And then after that, it was just cycle just of having, just to having, just guys, just to go on dates with or just to have. So I was trying to fill that void, again, because I hadn't talked to anybody. I didn't know how to really express that. And at that time I was really, really angry at God. And I was just done with wanting to be a wife, period. I was done with marriage. I was like, I'm just going to, guys that like me, sure, I'll go out with them, and then that'll be that. So like I said, around my birthday, it was just like, I think I just come to the point where I was just like, I just don't know what to do anymore, because I still had that desire to get married, although I initially said I didn't after that situationship, and I still wasn't in a, I didn't have a relationship. I was just, with going out with guys, not keeping my abstinence vow and things like that. And I wanted to, so I was like, God, I can't do this by myself. And I was like, I need somebody, in my corner who's Christian, who can walk this out. I need something. So like I said, when I found the one university, and then they had it was virtual, but it felt like family. We were all helping each other. We were all, going through the courses together. And stage 2, which is the healing from your past stage, that just broke me all the way down. Talking about healing from soul ties and things of that matter. And when the Pray for Your Future Spouse came along, I think about I going into it, honestly, I was like, okay, God, I've been healing since about, January. I think I'm ready to, I'm ready to be open to marriage again. But I think after about the first and second day, I was like, okay, Christina, I like you. I said, I need to work on myself. And I said, well, God, I've already failed time and time again with trying to be abstinent. I said, I need accountability in my life. And God blessed me, not just with you, but with about 5 other, the one we're called TOU sisters, and we just formed this a bond. And I'm so grateful and blessed to have you all still in my life. 3 years later, and that was just such a blessed season to be able to walk through that together and to have someone, because I felt like I was alone in that, wanting to remain abstinent until marriage, and then not having the godly accountability to help me through that was just really, really hard. So then, like I said, once we got together and we started hanging out and being accountable to each other, that was just like seriously a godsend. And then once I graduated, I did become a lifetime member, because I said I need this, like, in my life, single, dating, married. I need this, the accountability along, as well as just the courses. I just wanted to just, I knew I needed that in my life.
I think it's very important that you brought that up, because just because people are part of some community doesn't mean they're fixed right away. I can account for myself having uh, probably was seeking relationships out of validation before facing the issues that I was facing. They always say hurt people.
Yeah.
And I was one of those. And so having that community was one of the lifesavers for me. And I'm sure you can relate. Um, for you, what did that godly accountability look like? Because I want people to understand that just because they have friends that let you do and say and be with anyone and be everywhere, that's not accountability. Accountability person is going to give you the hard truth, whether you want to hear it or not. So what did that accountability look like for you?
I mean, besides us, just trying to meet up because we're all in North Carolina and some of us are in South Carolina, but it was hard for us all to get together all at the same time. So we would go to I remember the first event I went to was Jerry and Tanisha Flowers from Redefine TV. And Redefine TV Network, which is a Christian group, and it's directed towards singles and married. But we had went to that together. We tried to eat out together, but also in that just doing a lot of soul searching and just to make sure say, okay, I got to have this guy who's interested. I need some accountability, or I'm going out with so and so. I just I'm letting you know because I need accountability, and also just honestly those moments that are hard. Your flesh comes out, and trying to remain abstinent, when those moments that the flesh is just like, wanting to do something opposite, just honestly having someone to call, someone to talk to, saying, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now. I need to be talked off the ledge, and just being vulnerable with someone that you trust, and also to have that accountability, whereas they don't reprimand you, but they give you love and grace, and just walking that moment out for you, and if I have to do the same for someone else. So it's that relationship where you can be vulnerable and open without having to worry about your dirty laundry being out. And I'm very transparent about my past regardless, but still in that moment, some people may not want everyone to know what's going on. So that really was a huge factor, just being able to have someone where I could talk to when I knew my flesh was on about 10. I was like, I need to bring it back down. And because it's it was guys who I knew at the time weren't for me or weren't godly, but again, they were giving me that attention, they were wanting to take me out, things like that. And of course, eventually they do I don't want to say expect, but the expectation is sex afterwards. So just really having that accountability and just really knowing that we can have a good time without having to be in a relationship, and not saying that I don't desire a relationship or marriage, but to be able to have that connection with a accountability partner, to where it doesn't have to be a male connection, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So talk about you are Christina 3 years later. You've graduated the program. You've been through a lot. You've learned a lot. Talk about abstinence, because it's one thing to say and proclaim your abstinence when you're single and nobody's around, but when he comes around and you're starting dating, talk about abstinence in that regard. But what have you learned to protect yourself and avoiding the temptation while dating?
I personally, I'm a 90s baby. I can't listen to 90s music. I can't, like, Beyonce is about the furthest I can go, and that's only, that's a few select of her songs. That's honestly about it, to be honest. I've cut a lot of music out, and that was actually one of the things that Jerry Flowers of Redefined TV talked about was cutting out things that do tempt you. I don't watch. I love romantic films. Like, this holiday, Hallmark is like, but I can watch some, but I can't watch like movies that I watched in the past, like The Notebook, things like where I know it's going to be a sex scene, or it may not be a full scene, but it's the appearance of it. I can't watch, and if I know it ahead of time, I intentionally do not watch. And of course there will be some things where, it may be a commercial or things like that. But if I can protect that, then I will. And then also, I haven't gone on a lot of dates, to be honest, but as far as dating, again, to protect that, like I said, I'll let somebody know where I'm going, who I'm going with, things of that nature. But also, I am a part of a group with my good friend Tamika Wells, and she started an accountability called the Pearls of Great Price. So in that group, we share not only where we're going and who we're going with, but we also talk about how we feel during, how we feel after. If we we are attracted to the man, then okay, what's making you attracted to them? I remember Tamika and I had went to, this is pre-COVID, for Valentine's, we had went to a speed dating. And we went together, and we had a great time without drinking or going home with anybody. So, again, that aspect of accountability where you can go out and have fun without doing things that I've done in the past, to quote unquote have fun. And it was this guy, and we matched, and he to almost a T, he matched an ex of mine, and I was just just swooning over him. And I was telling her about him, like, oh, he's just like this and he's like that, and we matched. So, and she was like, well, what is it about him? I had to think about it. I was like, like almost to a T, he matched the description of an ex of mine. And I was like, okay, clearly that I knew it was. At that point, again, that was due to being in the one university. I knew it was something in me that I needed to get healed from that soul tie I had made with that ex, that I was finding this totally different man attractive, but for the same qualities that he had. So, that aspect, I have grown in that, also just not having men over my house, unless, like I said, unless someone else is with me, or I'm, was this time I had to get something out the house. If anyone knows me, I don't like, creatures, so it sounds horrible, but I had a bug, and it's this guy that likes me, and I know he likes me, and honestly, it was like the last resort. I called him to come get it, and I literally was I told one of my girlfriends, like, okay, he's coming, I'm going out the door when he comes. And at that moment, I believe Tamika had called me. I was like, okay, great, now I'm saved. I was outside while he was in here getting it, and then he left. So it was, so I really just have to discern that, especially, like I said, when I know I'm attracted to somebody or vice versa, and just really being protective of what I watch, what I listen to, who I let in my space, and not saying that I can't be friends with guys, but if I know that their intentions are, like, if I hear the conversation going towards sex, I'm like, you know what, it's not even, I'm like, I don't even give a reason anymore. I'm like, you know what, it's just not working between us, or I don't think it's a good fit, and things like that, and not feeling bad about it or not wanting to pursue it just to have someone to talk on the phone with. And that's another thing. I also don't talk on the phone at night to men. I don't past 10 o'clock. Yeah, unless, like I said, unless we just happen to be in a conversation that's not going in a sexual way. But I get, I know how I get when I get sleepy, and then I start saying things that I probably shouldn't say. So I know me, so I'm like, I don't even give that opportunity for
Right.
that space, because I know where I can go. And then I stopped drinking alcohol as well, which was another trigger, which made me more prone to be flirty around guys and things like that. So that has helped a lot because now I know, what I'm saying without, I can't use a justification of having alcohol to be flirty, not saying that you can't flirt without it, but I'm like extra flirty if I'm drinking. So I did stop that as well. Again, just to try to just make sure that I'm you know, being discerning within what I'm consuming, as well as what I'm watching and what I'm hearing as well.
That's very key that you said that, because learning your triggers, you have to know yourself. And if
Mm-hmm.
you keep going down the same rabbit hole, there's something that you're not dealing with, and
Right.
you can continue to repeat those cycles.
Right.
So knowing your triggers, having that discipline, because it is discipline. I mean, we all want a spouse or a mate, and just because the one guy comes along doesn't mean he's the guy. So
Right.
don't be ready to see this guy, and the next thing you know, you got your wedding dress out. That's you don't want to do that.
Yes,
Get to
I had
know
to
the
learn that.
person.
Yes.
Yeah, get to know the person. We've also learned through this community the difference between dating and courting. And
Yes.
so just having that community, learning what you should do and shouldn't do, can and can't do,
Mm-hmm.
protecting your eyes and your ears, what's coming out of your mouth. All of that is wonderful nuggets that you just shared. Having that godly, trustworthy accountability is key.
Yes.
If you're with a guy and you call and you say, you know what, I'm feeling this kind of way, and you call somebody and they say, well, you might not get this chance again. No,
Yeah, that's not accountability. It's not
that's not
God.
accountability. And if you have that dear friend or family member that is giving you the honest truth, and you may not want to hear it in that moment, just be thankful for them for being who they are in your life, because they're there to protect you.
Yes.
And know that you can't have any and everybody be an accountability partner.
Right.
And knowing your worth means that you're not validated by another person.
Mm-hmm.
And so those were some great nuggets. Great nuggets. Let's skip forward to your healing. Do you kind of remember when that was and what that journey looked like?
Honestly, I think it started when I was still in stage 2 of the one university. Like I said, we had that was the breaking soul tie stage. And when I learned what a soul tie was, and then also through that learned how to break it, and just started, um, you know, and that was a hard process because I think they made us, they didn't make us, but one of the assignments was to uh, make a list of your soul ties and denounce them. And once I started making that list, I was like, oh Lord,
Yeah.
and that was a really, really hard task, hard assignment to do, because then I saw on paper what I had done in my past, but then to learn that I could denounce them, and speak, and God, forgive me for those. And also I had to learn to forgive myself. I had to learn to forgive myself of what I had, in the past. And someone else said they're from TLU.
Yeah.
From TLU. And I had to forgive myself for what I've done, and learn that, God washes away my sins just like he did, everyone else's, and then walk in the freedom I have now, and not be chained to what I did and in my past, as a Christian, because I've been saved pretty much all of my life. So I knew right from wrong, and as far as with abstinence and sex and drinking alcohol and things of that manner, and so, but that when I started stage 2, I think that was the beginning of my healing. And then from then, I've just like delved into, like I said, the TLU, redefined TV, praying, reading my word, and really just being honest with God. I do write just, to write. So I write a lot to God. and just kind of just get my expressions out to him. And I was in counseling at one point, just to again talk about what a lot of the things that had happened, and from my childhood, until my adulthood, and just continuing that course, because that was 3 years ago. But like I said, I'm still in the program. I'm still, being, having accountability partners. I'm still, doing the things that I was doing. Because again, I know if it's easy to slip back into bad habits. It's so easy to slip back. This pandemic has been like it was hard enough, and then it was like that the wolves out here, the one guy I was talking about, that likes me, like he was like hitting hard over the pandemic, and I'm like, Lord, I'm trying, and please help. I was like seriously trying, and I'm like, that was hard to be very transparent, because again, it was so easy to go back, but I was, I had to. Again, I called my accountability, and things of that nature, and prayed. And I just had to just block him and stop talking to him. And it was hard because he was actually a friend of my grandmother's as well. So that it was a connection with her, and then him.
Yeah.
We had been friends before. So I just had to cut him off, for a while. And, just learn that, again, every connection is not a good connection. And then again, because I am very attracted to him, so it was it was a hard season. The first like 3 months of COVID, it was like, oh Jesus, like I'm trying to keep my salvation. But again, at that point, I learned over the course of TOU and redefined my why. So when it seems easy to slip back into my past, or what I had done in the past, I'm not claiming it's mine anymore. What I had done in the past, I think about my why, which is now breaking cycles, which is what we have went through in TOU, breaking cycles, breaking a cycle of promiscuity, breaking a cycle where my children won't have to go through the same cycles that I went through. And even when I do get married, I don't want those cycles being brought into my marriage. So that's honestly what keeps my focus, besides accountability, besides prayer, besides counseling, is knowing my why. Not just, okay, Christina, you're not having sex just because the Bible says, which it does, but also you are remaining abstinent, so your children and your children's children and your children's children don't have to go through the cycle of lust. And they don't have to go through the cycle of hurt and heartbreak, and things that you went through, that you don't have to bring these soul ties into your marriage. You can break those now, which again, I think also it's not a moment where it's I know God, they can be severed, and things like that. But I think God, I know God reveals to heal. So like with the Valentine's Day guy, and I was attracted to him. And then when my friend Tamika asked me, like, why are you so attracted to him? And I had to think about it. And I was like, literally, he had to a T matched the description of one of my exes. And I was like, okay. So I knew that soul tie I hadn't fully broken. So I actually had to go back through, not the full course, but back through renouncing that soul tie I had, and breaking that. So I believe it's a continuous process, and not just, okay, I prayed over this person, and that's that. And also I had to learn to forgive them. That was also hard. That was a hard course we had went through, to forgive, to like actually say the name of the person and say I forgive them. Like, right. Oh, that was, man. It took me a while to do that, where I can actually pray now and say I forgive them. And again, that's still a process that I believe is continuous. Because again, you could be triggered, like, oh, like I don't want to pray for them, or you hear the voice, or you see something that reminds you of them, and it's like, again, bless God. Like, okay, I know they're your child too. So it's honestly just being transparent, open. Like that's how I talk to God. I'm like, Lord, I know I should forgive them, but they're your child, so I'm trying.
Yeah.
So I have to be real with God about how I feel in the moment.
Yeah, and that's important because if you're lying to God, you're lying to yourself. And
Right.
the only way to get some help is to be
Mm-hmm.
very transparent.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the points you kind of made was about getting to the root of issues. We don't want to just denounce. We want to actually identify what those issues are, get to the root so that we're not repeating the same cycle, repeating the same sins over and over again. So that was very important.
Yes.
After you've been at TOU, I would say a year or two in, what were your aspirations for your life at that point?
Um, I was teaching at that point, so my aspiration at that point, honestly, was just teaching. I did author a book. A few years, I say in my early 20s, I authored my first book, entitled "Save Me from Myself: Journey Back to God." So I did know that I wanted to write. So that was an aspiration, and I also had the aspiration of speaking to young women or women of my age, about their single season and about my journey and being abstinent, and not just what I learned, which was just don't have sex, but the what's behind that, the reasons behind that, all of the soul ties and the hurt and the trauma that and the chains that come from that, to really just help women, um single young women who are single, to kind of just guide them guide them through that almost, and just to speak my truth and just to learn each other. So that was my aspirations at that point.
So let's fast forward and talk about your G mom
Mm-hmm.
and how she had you volunteering with her and how that ultimately birthed your new book and your Joy of Services, your grief support business. Talk about that.
Yes. So my grandmother, she was a minister, for those who don't know, and she unfortunately lost two of her older sons, and lost two of her older sons when they were very young. And what she wanted to do, we have life groups at our church, and she wanted to do a life group for mothers who had lost sons or lost children, to help them through that grief and help them to see how God brought her through, because she lost two sons in a very uh, you know short time frame apart, and how she lost them was not it wasn't like an accident, it was murder. So it was not, it was very hard for it was she her family I'm sorry her family thought that she would deal with it another way. They thought that she would, go to something like alcohol or something like that. And God, she prayed before everyone came to the house after, I believe, her first son uh, passed, and she prayed for peace. And she said she felt this bubble that God gave her in that moment of, peace and strength, and she was able to get through that process without drinking, just able to really just praise him. So she started that, and she had me volunteer to help her with that. And then also she had me. There was another life group that I had joined. Again, this was pre COVID, and it was a mentorship for young girls. And it was talking about, yes, it was fifth and sixth graders, just helping them through their journey. And so she saw that, and she was like, yeah, she said, you go sign up there and then come back to help me. I was like, yes, ma'am. So yeah.
Wow. And so out of that volunteer, you became a grief support coach.
Yeah. So
And so, but
after,
that wasn't on your radar prior to that. So that's what I
no.
want to bring light to, how we have these different aspirations for our life, but God may say otherwise. And you accepted the call. So talk about that.
Yes. So I had, like I said, I was just helping getting with her with getting the numbers, getting the people, emailing the people, because we had to reach out to people. And at that point, we had like tables set up in our church, and people would come to the table. So I was helping her with that. But when she passed, August of 2019, and through my grief, through the grief that I saw in my family, I started to write. And because that's writing is one of my outlets, so I started to write, and I wanted it to be something for her grandchildren and great grandchildren to remember her by, because a few of the grandchildren are younger. So and I just wanted them to be able to remember her in a positive light, but I also wanted to help other children, other families who have lost a loved one, especially a prominent figure such as a grandmother, or like a big mama, or someone that just kind of glues the family together and holds them together. So I just really wanted to do that. And from there, I was in a program by Sharonda Green Christopher, who is also a fellow author and a friend of mine. And I went through a program with her, and actually, was able to get my business started through the program with that. And that's how Joy Up Services was birthed. And actually, the name Joy Up came from, she always used to tell me, like, she calls me Tina. She says, Tina, keep your joy. My pastor is on. Yeah, she says, thanks be in the God who always uses triumph, spirit, soul, and body. Amen, Pastor. That's my pastor from Atlantic City. And so I started the service, and I got the name Joy just from what she had always told me, to keep my joy, to have joy, to keep my faith, and things of that nature, even in the midst of circumstances. And the blessing, I'm not saying that it was a blessing that she passed. Yes, he's a keeper to Meeker, absolutely. And she said, thank you for the block feature. But he kept me. And when my mom called me and was saying that the doctors were saying my grandmother wasn't going to make it, on my way from school to the hospital, I was praying. I said, God, I don't know what bubble you gave my grandmother when her sons passed, but whatever bubble that was, I need it now. And I'm telling you, like, I'm heartbroken, because she was my aunt, literally my best friend. But on my way there, I was able to praise. In the hospital, I was able to praise, and just seeing the peace on her face after she passed. Like, I'm getting jumped up now, but because it was beautiful, and I know that with everything that I'm doing, I'm doing it to make her proud. And so that's where the service came up from, just to help somebody else to be able to walk through that, and to be able to know that God has them through the moments where of sadness and grief and missing their loved one, because I miss my grandmother dearly every day. And but just to walk through that process, and to have someone to support them. And I had Tamika, she introduced me to Grief Share, and I was able to, which is a program, it's a grief support program, and I was able to walk through that process with them. And for anyone that's listening, it's griefshare.org, and they have organizations. And you don't have to be a Christian to attend those, but they do have support groups for anyone who has lost a loved one. So that helped me tremendously. And then, like I said, writing out how I felt helped me. And I just, like I said, and having it in a book form to help other children, and then to have support to help other families and children to guide them through that process. That's been my healing process in that.
So many people have lost loved ones since COVID. If they reach out to you for your services, what does a typical service look like from your Joy Up Services company?
So a typical service, I start off with a free consultation, a free 30-minute consultation, just to get an idea of who the individual was that was lost, how it's affecting either them or their children, and then what they what they would want or need from me as far as support. And then the actual program consists of me just talking and walking through different aspects, such as grief triggers, which I did not know of until I had my first one, not too long after my grandmother passed, and walking through, actually talking to someone, because I initially wasn't talking to anyone after my grandmother passed, and talking about the busyness of, because I had, after she passed, I just was busy, 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 not really letting it sink in that she was no longer here, because she actually lived with me. So I was still in the house where she was. Um, so talking about things like that, talking about, having to be the if you're the adult or the child, having to be the one to kind of handle all of the aftermath. And again, only because I was here, I had to handle, uh, getting her handicap sticker removed, calling all the bill collectors time and this is multiple times saying that my grandmother passed, my grandmother passed, my grandmother passed, my grandmother passed, and not, and again, in my busyness, not thinking about it. I'm like, this is what I have to do. I'm doing it, and not realizing that that's affecting me.
Right.
And until I actually, again, until I had my first great grief trigger, and I broke all the way down, and I thought I was crazy then, because I had been fine up until that point, and really just, walking that through and just supporting them, and again, in a healthy manner, and then what I did versus going back to sleeping around, or being, or trying to just find a God to fill that void, which again, they were, that one particular one was trying to come, um, you know, because that space was created where I was in grief, things of that nature. But really just finding healthy ways to manage that for adults, and to manage grief, the process of grief for adults and for children. So I did come out with a grief interactive workbook for children, as well as 5 tips for grieving during the holidays for children or adults. Again, because I had my first Thanksgiving, first Christmas without my grandmother, still in the house that we had shared together, and I didn't know at the time I was grieving, because Thanksgiving I cooked for about 20 people for myself,
Wow.
and just
Wow.
trying to keep her memory, and not realizing I was grieving, So so that's what it would look like, just to walk through that process with a parent or their child, and to process and talk about, how they're feeling, and those emotions, and what's transpiring, because after a loved one passes, that's not the stopping point. You have to deal with the emotions inside. Also, if you're dealing with, like I said, trying to clean out their house, trying to figure out what to keep and what not to keep, and I'm in the midst of moving now, and I still have so much of her things. It's like, and I cleaned out a lot when she initially passed, but just I had to like close my eyes and just throw what I don't need in the trash, because I have to realize that she's in here and not in things. And
Right.
so that I'm still honestly walking through that process. So just helping and supporting individuals or children through that process is what my service will look like.
So you said you had your first grief trigger. What was that exactly for you?
So every Christmas, I bought my grandmother a poinsettia, which was her favorite Christmas flower, and I adopted it as mine. So I was in a grocery store, and like I said, at this point, I had been fine, up until this point. And I walked in the store, and I turned, and I saw poinsettias, and this was early November, and I forgotten that they put Christmas things out like a month in advance. So I saw those. I literally let, I don't even know what I had in my basket, but I left it. I got to the car, and I just cried. And
Yeah.
I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I had been perfectly fine. And then it hit me. And then I talked to a good friend of mine from church. Um, and I was telling her what happened, because she had lost a loved one about the same time I had lost my grandmother. So we were kind of in the hospital together. Um, yes, Precious is another one of my good friends. And she, she was in the hospital the same time I was with a loved one. And I told her, what happened, and I was like, I think I'm going crazy. She was like, no, it's normal. And then once I went to the grief support, and I told them what had happened, and they were like, it's normal and it's a grief trigger. I was like, oh, okay, and I had no clue what that was or what was happening because it was just out of the blue, and I didn't realize that places, things, scents, even, could trigger, memory, and then that memory just bring about, sorrow.
Mhm. Yeah, so you were so busy to the point where you were avoiding.
I was, yes,
Wow.
I was a big avoiding stage, yes.
Okay. Well, Christina, first of all, I'm sorry for your loss. I know I've said that before.
Thank
But I can tell your G mom was very, very close to you for you to still get choked up. And you're right. Her memory does live on in your heart. So, my condolences to you.
thank you, appreciate
Um, so you're an avid runner.
it.
You live a vegan lifestyle. You're writing books. You're running a business. How different is Christina today than she was 3 years ago when we met through TOU?
Oh, wow. So different, but again, in a good way, and that's only God's grace, God's grace. So, I again, not a finished product or perfect by any means whatsoever, but I am more whole. I'm okay with Christina. When about 3 years ago, I was masking behind relationships, behind having to have someone, behind having to be married by 30, which I'll be 35 in what's about 7 days now, and oh, thank you, Dad. And it has been, just again walking through here, knowing myself now versus then knowing that I can't listen to certain music or watch certain things or be around certain people, or when my flesh is like on the 10, knowing that okay, I need to reach out to somebody, or like I said, or I use exercise too as an outlet, so I'll get up and and do some jumping jacks if I need to, or like I said, I get a lot of my stress relief out when I go on the pavement, when I run or when I work out. So just having those healthy ways to get out, that I guess adrenaline or that fleshly desire, and then also learning to talk more, because in 2019, like I said, I didn't want to talk about my how I felt. I was so angry with God that situationship didn't work out, and just I remember just being on the floor, honestly, probably just telling God all the way off. And in my spirit, he said, I heard, I love you. And it was not me, because I didn't love myself at that point. And I was like, why do you love me? Like, I broke all the way down. But getting to know God better, getting to know him better, getting to know Christina better, getting to, again, and then just, continuing in my healing process, like with TOU, with my accountability, with Redefined TV, things of that nature, so that I'm not going back into the things that I used to do. And again, not perfect by any means, but striving to continue to be whole and to walk in wholeness and to walk in the breaking the cycles for my future family, whenever my future husband does come, and really just trying. I'm still working on it. Haven't gotten all the way there, but trying to walk out being content in singleness, because my timeline was to be married by 30 with 2 kids. I would be 35 with neither one.
Right.
So really just, and again, COVID was just, again, for a lot of reasons, COVID was just bad, but it just was like, it really just let me know, like, well, I am single for real. Like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
So really just again, talking it out with God, but also, with my accountability. So they'd be like, like Christina, I have friends inviting me to the Bible plans about, waiting on God and, forgiveness and things of that nature. So then when I read that and, and God speaks to me, especially when I'm running, I'll see the star. I did a vlog one time because I have a vlog called Not So Easy Wait. And I was running and one day it was still dark and I saw the stars and I heard like the scripture came to mind of when God showed Abraham the stars and said, you see, count how many, like, see if you can count the stars. That's how many descendants you will have. And I'm running, trying to count the stars. And I'm like, wow, like, so in those moments, when God reminds me through him or through someone or through something I read, I'm like, okay, God, you see me, you hear me, and for whatever reason I'm single, it is for your purpose, but really being content in that, which again I'm working in progress in that, because sometimes I'm like, Jesus, listen, now about that, this is supposed to happen about 5 years ago, and I'm healing and I'm trying to walk right and I'm being abstinent, so I'm like, I have my checklist to God of all things that I'm doing, but to be, again, because he's omniscient, just to really trust him with the season of my life.
Right. His timing is perfect. His
Amen.
timing is perfect.
Amen.
And I know we feel some kind of way about COVID, but what COVID has taught me or has shown me was the level of growth. Had COVID happened 2 or 3 years ago, I think it would have wiped me out. But I've been so content. I've been so at peace. I haven't been bothered with what coulda, shoulda, woulda, or who's coming by or anything like that. Um, I just rejoice in the fact that I'm in a place of healing and wholeness now. In the midst of COVID, you're alone, you're closed up. It's just spoke growth to me. And so I'm thankful just for that.
Amen.
Because a year or two ago, it would have been a different story.
I agree. Yes, ma'am.
Well, Christina, this is the last question for you. What message do you have for those singles? Advice for singles, or any last words that you want to share with them? Maybe they're toiling during COVID. What message would you have for singles?
Um, that the weight. When I say this, well, I think I say it in my blogs, but the weight is not easy, to be honest, and that's not just with being single. That's with your desires or anything that God has put in you. That you feel like you want to give birth to spiritually or physically, but in the process, that God is working, God is moving, God is growing you, God is molding and shaping you into who he wants you to be, who he wants you to be surrounded by, and things of that nature. And to know that, as you said, God's timing is perfect, and that he's he doesn't forget us. He doesn't forget his children. He doesn't forget that you're single, that that you may feel lonely. Like he will put people in your life at the right time, at the right moment, that you need it, to whereas to help you through that journey, and also to help you through, if you're abstinent, to help you through abstinence, and to help heal, to help continue to grow, so that you can again be the whole person that you need to be for you, not just for marriage, or not just for relationship, but for him and for his kingdom purpose and what he has planned for your life. So to really just to trust God, and I say this because it is not easy all the times, but to really trust God, to really just, again, I just talk with God real, like, God, this is just how I'm feeling today, and really just have that conversation, because he's physically not with us, but spiritually he is. Would thank God for the Holy Spirit, and to just really just talk with him, and to tell him how you're feeling, but also to say, what, God, in this area, I know I can't do it by myself, so I need help, and I promise you, like, I prayed that prayer at the beginning of the one, the prayer for future spouse challenge for the one university. And I think even before the week was over, we had formed our group, and it was just, people asking, okay, where are you from? And we had,
Yep.
we had a lot of us from North Carolina and South Carolina. And again, I know it was God that just put us in a group together where we're still, accountable to each other. We're still friends and things of that nature. So God will give you what you need to have in the season to help you get through it, and to really, again, just be in your word, be in prayer, to help you through it as well. But also just surround yourself with godly accountability, and to ask God for that accountability, because I have friends now, but they weren't that godly accountability that I needed in that season, and even in this season.
Right. Well, Christina, tell everyone how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So I can be found on Facebook and Instagram, author Christina Stanley. Also, I have my website, www.joyupservices.com, as well as my LinkedIn, and I can be found there, author Christina Stanley, and Linktree at author Christina Stanley.
Christina, thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be on this show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to say that I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud to watch your growth from 3 years ago until now, because that's just evident that God is working. And if we just accept the calling and walk through that process, that we can have what He has promised us. And so you're doing just that, having experienced the loss of your grandma, and how you can pick yourself up with God and just transform your life is very inspiring to watch. I'm very proud of you, and I speak blessings over you and abundance on everything that you touch. And so I would love future collaborations with you. But as far as today goes, just thank you so much. You've been great. I'm pretty sure you have blessed many. And I just I pray and wish you so much joy and happiness in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Veronica. I appreciate you, and I speak blessings over you and your life, and what God is doing in you as well. And I thank you so much, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, well, if you'll hold tight, we'll say goodbye to everyone. And if you'll hold tight for just a couple more seconds. All right, stay tuned, everybody, for the next I Am Transformed show. You can click on the events tab in Facebook on I Am Transformed show, and you can see the lineup for December. We have some marvelous guests coming up. We even have a discussion panel on forgiveness on December 5th. So check that out and stay tuned, and God bless you all.